I have to tell you, I'm remembering parts of the conversation that we had before and preparing for this. And you talked very, very eloquently about the B2B buyer today is extremely informed. They are educating themselves all the time. This is not the Steve Jobs before he had passed away said, I'm never going to get the idea of creating a phone without buttons, a keypad on it, right? Focus group customers would never suggest that. We have to lead the way. And there's truth in that, right? But what you're saying is, hey, we got to pay attention to our customers. They're really smart. They're in the market. They're doing their research. And by the way, they're talking to a bunch of companies like ours. And they're getting a bunch of different point of views that we don't have. We can learn a lot by just listening to them. And you talk about that component of just shutting up and listening. And by the way, that came from a McKinsey study that I just read like a couple of days ago. Their conclusion was shut up and listen to your customers. That literally was the conclusion of the study. But tell me about then the key to listening, because you talked about data and we've got more data than we've ever had before. We're drowning in data, right? Now, that's a whole nother story, but can we use that data to be a substitute for proximity to the customer? Or do we actually need to listen to the customer in other ways too?
Exactly. I think data is one truth, but at the end, we are in a people's business, especially when it comes to software investments that we provide to the customers. This can be 500,000 euros. This can be 3 million euros. This can be a huge dimension of investment for those customers. So that's why we have to discuss those topics in person with the responsible people on the customer side and on the prospect side. And just as you mentioned, the customers are a lot better informed today. I have been in this industry for 30 years. 30 years ago, we were experts. We knew everything about the technology. We were only talking about technology all the time. And we were telling the customer, oh, this is the way it is, and eat it or leave it. And today, of course, there's a generation shift and so on, so on. The customers, very often, they might even be smarter with respect to the technology than you are as a provider. If they have an expert in their own organization, they might even have a better clue around certain topics, not of course within the technology of Microsoft, but in general, and that's why we are talking and the conversation is a lot different than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were, let's say, arrogant techies and there was low maturity on the customer side. Now we are looking into each other's eyes and we have to create solutions together in a dialogue. So we have to respect, let's say, the customer in a totally different way, not only with respect to their process knowledge, also we have to keep in mind that they have technology knowledge and they are doing a lot of research. Now the web is full. I'm one of those kids that were more or less socialized on the CeBIT, on the big fair in Hanover. It was the biggest computer fair worldwide. You cannot imagine what kind of parties we had there. And in order to get new technology first, they had to go there. Now you have it on your fingertips. Now you do the research yourself. Now you ask Gartner. You don't even need to ask Gartner anymore because there are so many experts. There are so many white papers. There is so much research that is accessible. So very many people, they are better informed very often than someone on our side because they have read, let's say, all the different papers from all the competitors, and then they already have done, let's say, a pre-decision before they even contact us.